Oh, Tony Khan, once again, like last month at Revolution, you were so close. You gave the ball, and your players, or in this case wrestlers, were running down the field. They were at the 50, the 40, the 30, the 20, the 10, and then you fumbled it. And then they ran it back the other way, and the other team won. Who was the other team? All the other people that had basically given up on you ever understanding how to goddamn book a wrestling pay-per-view properly. You are so close to the edge, and fans are about to goddamn break. You fucking dim-witted. Can't talk in public to save your life. Can't book a wrestling promotion properly to save your life. You goddamn freaking annoying little nerd. God, I love professional wrestling, but man, all they'll remember is the goddamn finish. Good fucking job, Tony Khan. Good fucking job. I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynasty 2025. They were in Philly. Look, there were good things about this pay-per-view. There were things they could have cut, honestly, to, maybe not make this so goddamn agonizingly long in the latter half. There were at least 3 matches they could have put either up on Dynamite or Collision. And I have been to every single Washington State-based AEW show except the Spokane show that they ran just before WrestleDream 2024. I was there for the birth of this, continuous Death Rider stuff. Yeah, they were already doing the stuff when Moxley and everybody turned on Bryan Danielson. But I was there when everybody basically collectively groaned. I don't care if it was Bryan's choice to have Moxley beat him. That wasn't the issue. If it was a short-term fix, that's fine. But I don't care what their end game is. Whatever their goddamn end game is for this Death Riders bullshit, the fans don't want to see this shit anymore. Outside of Chris Jericho, Jon Moxley is the worst main event talent they had. He can't work. He can't cut a goddamn coherent promo. And Marina Shafir. Let's talk about this goddamn stupid bitch that can't even take a cutter right. Good goddamn job. You're a legit athlete, but you can't even do that right. Talent really isn't sexually transmitted, I guess. My God, Roddy, tell your goddamn wife to do something else. So yeah, they were at the Licorice Center in Philadelphia. I know what it's called. I don't care. If you're a Young Bucks fan, you're not going to like this. If you're a Jon Moxley fan, you're not going to like this. If you're a Chris Jericho fan, you're not going to like this. And I don't care at this point. I plunk down money for every single AEW pay-per-view. I pay my hard-earned money to support the wrestlers I care about, to see stuff, to remind me, to restore that feeling that I love about wrestling. And then it gets stamped out. WWE is by no means perfect, but we are here talking about AEW. They need to get their pay-per-views on Max for a reduced price. They need to do something, and they need to trim the fat as far as matches and as far as talent. The 0-hour panel was Renee, RJ, and Jeff Jarrett. Apparently Jeff Jarrett's just given up on the whole world title push. They run down the card. Madison Rain's Bangs happened to make an appearance to talk about the women's division. Lexi talks to Ricochet about the 3-way. And Harley does some by-the-numbers stuff about the Owen tournament. A package on Kevin Knight. Guys, you're in for a treat with Kevin Knight. I saw Kevin Knight at Independent Promotions back a number of years ago, and he is incredible, so gifted, has grown and just done so, much in, not just on the independents, but in Impact and in New Japan. And I'm looking forward to seeing what him and what Nick Wayne can do in the Best of Super Juniors, because by God, New Japan also needs some help. All in Texas plug. I'm going to be perfectly honest. I would be very shocked after this finish if they actually will get up to 18 or 20,000 in that stadium. They had a surge of tickets, maybe on the idea that they were actually going to get a proper finish to this main event. And I had a feeling what the main event finish was going to be, but good God. So yeah, Briscoe's all fired up. Ishii was just there for some reason. Nick Wayne, along with Lio Rush and Action Andretti, took on... Well, and by the way, Kip Sabian and Shayna Wayne were in the corner. They took on AR Fox and Top Flight. Okay, get Menard off of commentary. Just get Menard off of commentary, please. Just for the love of God. The commentary actually was the biggest detriment to this program, because there are people that are good on commentary. But if I'm going to kill WWE for some of their bad commentary, Michael Cole, especially Booker T, and a few others that they have. I'm going to kill AEW for it. This was the usual. They did flippy shit. Again, I'm so happy for Nick Wayne. I can't wait to see what he does in the Best of Super Juniors. I'll try to check that out if I can. Shayna does a distraction. I get it. She is very distracting. And Wayne's World, party time, excellent. 1, 2, 3. So Athena has a spinner belt. Why? I don't know. The crowd basically, they tried to do the Max Caster chant, I guess, or they were mocking him, and suddenly Anthony Bowen shows up with Jane's Addiction's Underground as his theme. They gave Anthony Bowens a new theme, a new look. Okay, and he beat Caster very quickly. I don't really know if this necessarily is going to lead to Anthony Bowens getting a singles push, at least long term. I hope it does, because this thing with Caster really has not benefited anybody so far. If Bowens just moves on from Caster, if they just never reference this again, and they maybe push him to, I don't know, the TNT Championship, and he beats the now new champion, then I'm all for it. But I worry because I have problems putting faith in what Tony Khan does, because Tony Khan can't book. He has proven time and time again he can't book. So JR comes out for commentary, by the way. By the way, where's Bowens been? I mean, has he just been working in the gym and doing this? Because he's been gone for a while. JR was on commentary, and I'm sorry. I love JR. He's one of my favorites. His stuff in Mid-South, his stuff in WCW, a lot of his stuff in the WWF. But by the time he got to his New Japan stuff, and I know that he lost his wife, he's had health issues, I get it. I am not knocking JR's, physical well-being. Like, I'm not trying to be, detrimental, because I respect him. He can't do this anymore. He doesn't sound like he cares. Will Ospreay and Kevin Knight took on each other in an Owen Hart men's quarterfinal match. They did flip-de-doo-dah shit, and they had the crowd into it. The crowd was into Ospreay. Kevin Knight had a good showing here. I enjoyed the match. It at least was nice to not feature, ridiculous furniture spots and everything. There was a snap Rana off the ropes. Kevin was countering a lot of Ospreay's offense, so that was nice. A DDT on the stage. Why Ospreay hates his neck, I don't know. We get a dive, and we get a DDT in the ring for 2. A snap Rana, again for 2. That was actually kind of nice how they countered that in the ring. A drop kick to counter the Os Cutter. So they're cooking. They're doing some good cooking. I'm 44 years old saying that shit. A UFO splash. What, I don't know why they call it that, but never mind. We get a 2 count. We get close near falls. And we eventually get a hidden blade. 1, 2, 3. So good opener. I mean, sans the 2 matches we saw for the pre-show, but whatever. At least it was that. And Ospreay won expectedly. I don't really think anybody thought that Kevin Knight would win. I wouldn't have minded seeing Kevin Knight win, but not for the story they're telling. For the love of God, they got to do something big with Ospreay. They got to have Ospreay go into All In and win the world title, but that is 3 months away. That is 3 goddamn months away. The Hurt Syndicate are way over in Philly. They beat Big Bill and Brian Queef. I really have nothing to say about this, and I will call Brian by his actual name when they get him away from Jericho, and maybe he doesn't look like he's constantly being shocked in the balls every time somebody approaches him. Also, I think that he has pissed off the Hurt Syndicate and MVP or something, because they treat him like a rag doll. MJF did end up helping the Hurt Syndicate a little bit. That was kind of nice. So, yeah, they laid Brian Keith out, so there you are. As much as I love seeing the Hurt Syndicate on pay-per-view, yeah, Bill, I'm sorry. He can do a few decent spots, but he is very awkward in the ring. He is never going to get better. And people say, oh, he'd go back to WWE. To do what? I mean, yeah, he's in better shape. He's not really any better. I mean, he's not going to be any better the second time around. I'm sorry, he's just not. And plus, let's not forget why he was originally released. Look up what happened with him and Carmella. So yeah, fuck goddamn Big Bill. Good thing he got clean, but that's not going to take care of the toxicity that he has inside his mind. Julia Hart took on Mercedes Moné in a Owen Hart women's quarterfinal match, and the crowd booed Mercedes. They were doing a few CEO chants, but as it went on, they were booing Mercedes a lot. Not because she's a heel, because they genuinely don't like her. Now, in the ring, she's about as back as she's ever going to get. Julia, the only thing I'm worried about is she's tiny, and her body may not be able to take the bumps for way too long. She can do some good stuff. Her and Statlander had a good match at the 2023 Wrestle Dream pay-per-view that I went to. But they didn't really gel. I'm sorry. There were slip-ups, and look, slip-ups happen. I'm not going to get into a lot of stuff like that because there's a lot more egregious shit that happened here. We got a tarantula. We got backstabbers. It looked like they might have Julia fight out, just continue to fight out of the submission. Oh my God, she might pull off the upset. No, a trap pin wins it. Not a bad match. But again, I'm sorry. I don't want to listen to Mercedes. She annoys me every time she even gets near a microphone because she doesn't talk genuinely. In the ring, if she shuts her goddamn mouth and just wrestles, then I'm okay with that. And there are a lot of people on this goddamn roster that should shut up and wrestle unless they can actually talk like a normal person. She just seems too full of herself and not even in she deserves it kind of way. Like, she's worked hard, but you know what? She's about here, and she thinks she's way up here. Nigel is here now, and we get a sing-along for Cunning Metalingus for, Copeland Edge's song. And is rated FTR, or FT Narf as I want to call them, against the Death Riders. Pac and Claudio, and unfortunately Wheeler Yuta is there. And look, I don't care how it's done. I just want it done through legal means. Somebody needs to find a way to permanently remove Wheeler Yuta from the active roster. He is not good at this. He looks literally like a bowl of oatmeal is stuck on his goddamn head. He looks mope-faced. He can't do anything proper that a bunch of other people on the indies can't do, and they have way more expressions on their face. He got booed more than Eric Watts did at Super Brawl 3, and longtime wrestling fans are going to know that's not a compliment. Now, I have a blinding hatred for Wheeler Yuta merely existing in professional wrestling. I don't care if he can do the moves. It's not even like a Dominic Mysterio thing, or even like a few other people that have been in AEW or WCW. He's a fucking nuisance. Just throw him on the other side of the barricade and stay over there. And arrest his goddamn parents for producing him. Anyway, so later, Dax stole the tag from Copeland. I didn't really pay attention to this Trios titles match. You know why? Because it involves the Death Riders. Poor Claudio. Pac always looks like he just stepped out of the shower because his hair is always wet. Give Wheeler Yuta the goddamn soap treatment that they gave that guy in Full Metal Jacket as far as I'm concerned. Bit harsh, don't care. Anyway, a triple submission spot. And Jesus Christ. This just wouldn't end. This kept going. And we got a shatter machine, a spear, but that got broken up. We got a near collision between Copeland and Dax. And Yuta pinned Dax. And then Dax turned on Copeland. And I'd be pissed off too and ready to scream to the heavens and ready to throw a brick wall at the nearest goddamn person to book that. But Tony Khan would fear for his life. Wheeler Yuta got a pinfall in a pay-per-view match in 2025. So you know what, Tony Khan? You don't deserve to win Booker of the Year. You don't even deserve to call yourself a goddamn Booker. You nincompoop. I don't know why Yuta frustrates me so much. Maybe it's just because I see so many people working on the indies that are way better than he will ever be. Way more interesting than he will ever be. People that actually have personality, that actually can do great things. And no, you have this goddamn little string bean. This stupid mop-top motherfucker that does not deserve, is not worthy of being in professional wrestling on this stage. What has he done? What has he done besides maybe be the hand-picked favorite? Oh, Bryan Danielson loved him. Yeah, Bryan Danielson has a Swiss cheese brain as much as I goddamn love him. Kept wrestling with a bad goddamn neck. So you know what? This company needs to be saved from people that don't want to goddamn save it. Anyway, then a pile driver to Copeland. And then, oh my God, Cash is trying to stop him. And then they do a pile driver, or a shatter machine, and then a pile driver on the chair. And then they do a concerto and they mock Copeland. I think everybody saw this coming. A heel FTR, I mean, why not at this point? So at least there was that. Bless Claudio and Pac. At least Pac's short, but he looks like an athlete. Tony Storm, that is, dressed up as Rocky, doing the Rocky Balboa stuff, and Luther, who looks like the guy that played Mickey, now. And Tony Storm, dressed as Rocky, took on Megan Bayne, and Megan Bayne, lay off the goddamn spray tan. My God. Distracting as hell. She can work. She has a look. She has a striking look. She has a presence. Tony is super over with the fans. This wasn't a bad match for the AEW Women's Championship. We get interference by Penelope for what that's worth, honestly. It's better than watching her wrestle at this point. Luther carries Penelope away. We get a German off the ropes by Tony, which looked pretty goddamn deadly. And we get a hip attack. We get multiple attacks. We get a Storm Zero for one. And then, oh my God, it looks like Megan's going to get the victory. She's going to go for a finish and then a shock roll-up. 1, 2, 3. I mean, that's not really surprising. I guess that's how you keep a big beast, a monster, safe. But, I mean, it is what it is. Maybe Megan Bayne will beat Mercedes. I mean, we need these titles on somebody, actually, that can sound convincing and not like an idiot when they cut promos. Tony retained. I don't think that was really surprising. Mark Briscoe took on Kyle Fletcher in an Owen Hart men's quarterfinal match. 1 women's tournament match, 2 men's tournament matches, and this could have been saved for Dynamite. I'm sorry, I know that's going to sound harsh. I'm not saying I don't want people to get a pay-per-view payoff, but Tony's already paying a lot of these talents way more than their market value. There's nothing wrong with that. Mark Briscoe, especially after losing his brother, Kyle Fletcher, refuses to pick a look. I just do not understand why in the world he refuses to pick a look. He was dressed like Pepto-Bismol. Callis was on commentary. They did a lot of stuff. Kyle dominated for a while. Mark kept making his flurries and his comebacks. A barricade bomb to Mark. I don't know why. There was not a burning hammer, but it was like an attempt at a burning hammer variation or whatever it was. As close, I guess, as you're going to get, and if you're going to have somebody give it to you, Mark Briscoe's one of the safest ones to do that. No cover, and eventually the Buster on the Buffalo, 1, 2, 3. So there you are. So that's, by the way, we were cooking here. We were going along fast. I don't think we were 2 hours into the main show yet, and we were doing good. And then. Bandito put his mask on the line against Chris Jericho, the sack of shit that I do not want to see anything involving Chris Jericho unless it is his wake at this point. He can't work. He can't do anything. Any stuff that he tried to do, he's nearly laying on his head. Not that it would affect his brain anyway, given who he voted for and has voted for in the past. But mask versus title. God, Jericho is so shit. They have Bandito's sister and mother there. A long-delayed superplex, or, long-delayed suplex, that was nice. He kept doing the counts, kept doing that stuff. Bandito is strong and Bandito is good, but Bandito is not a magician. He couldn't do the 21-plex because either Bandito got caught up in the ropes or Jericho just was flat out refusing to do it. And then I believe that was Gravity that showed up. I thought it was Hologram, but I think it's Gravity. And then Brian Queef showed back up because that's what this pay-per-view needed more of, is more short shits. And then a bat shot that was weaker than Hogan's chair shots. No, you don't need to actually hit somebody with the goddamn bat, but about as weak as your defense of not knowing where your wife was on January 6, 2021, Jericho. Anyway, so yeah, for 3. So Bandito loses his mask until the mother and daughter talk to Aubrey, and then Aubrey finds the bat, and they do a restart. The restart thing, by the way, worked a whole lot better when Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal beat the Acclaimed on the Dynamite I was at to win the tag titles, and then we got a reversal there. Not that I have anything against Aubrey, but if they are relying on one referee to do the job of everybody else because they can't pay attention to any of this stuff, then oh boy, does Tony Khan like to make his referees look inept. And again, up until this point, actually, the pay-per-view wasn't that bad. This was a bad match. This was a really, really bad match. There's no defending. I don't care if Bandito's the Ring of Honor champion. But this is, by the way, he did win it with a GTS variation in 21 plex, and he celebrated with his mother and sister. So then this is where things really started to go downhill. Daniel Garcia took on Adam Cole in a TNT title match with no time limit and no interference, because we had a time limit draw before, and it was like Garcia had this great... Garcia has done well, or about as well as he can, with whatever push they've been giving him. I just do not think that this TNT title run ended up doing a whole lot of good for him. I don't have a lot of great memories from it. I don't have any bad memories, except this, because this match wouldn't end. Yes, there was ankle focus by Garcia because he's sick of having Adam Cole in his rearview mirror. Well, now he's in the rearview mirror of Adam Cole because Adam Cole won. Adam Cole with his first championship in AEW, which actually isn't surprising considering he had the concussion. He was out for a while. He came back, then got the ankle injury during the Brochachos thing with MJF, and came back from that and has not been the same. And bless Adam Cole. I hope he can continue to wrestle for a while. But he shouldn't, because this isn't very good. This is not. This was a TV match that went on a long goddamn time and probably would have been better to open a live Collision. Honestly, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me if this match, if this Mark Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher and the Ring of Honor Ring of Honor versus mask match have been taken off this pay-per-view, would anybody have gotten pissed? No, if anything, people probably would have had more goddamn energy. Omega against Ricochet against Meatball Mike Bailey in a three-way international title match. Okay, the crowd's up for this, and I will give them credit. They did a lot of shit. They did a lot of spots. I don't necessarily think that this was that great of a three-way because it went way too long. If this had been 15 to maybe 20 minutes at the most, fine. It went 10 to 12 minutes longer than it needed to. And I knew they were going to do a lot of crazy shit. And Meatball's not going to have any goddamn, knees left. At least at one point when he tried to get on the goddamn headset, he wasn't able to talk because he does not ever need to talk on television. And also when somebody pointed out that he looks like Hong Kong Phooey met Todd Pettengill and fused together, now you will never unsee it. Ricochet, I think the crowd is really starting to get to him. Congratulations, you got married. Congratulations, you found a woman that was a sucker to buy into your bullshit. And I like Samantha, don't get me wrong, but I'm starting to sour on Ricochet because he is one of many that goes to a certain school of a certain registered you-know-what, and I don't care if he hasn't been there in a couple of years. That has been public knowledge for years and years and years, and maybe it proves, by the way, that Ricochet probably isn't the smartest individual in the world. We know he can't really win a fight on Twitter. He talks about fans not wanting to, or, no fans jumping on his train or whatever. Don't worry, Ricochet. I think your train's going to crash, much like, any that, are going, or any coal trains, like Robbie Coltrane. Maybe it'll crash like, a goddamn train right into the Old West. Make it make sense is what I was pointing out, because, yes, they were doing athletic stuff, and Omega at least looked like the star in this. The thing is I don't mind people getting their chance to shine, but you cannot tell me this match shouldn't have been half the length that it was. A 450 on, well, Omega had an armbar, Ricochet did that. There was apron spots. There was a spot where, Meatball ended up on the apron and, almost shattering his damn knees. And Knox got clipped, but he couldn't sell it, probably because he can't feel anything because he's 2,000 years old. Rick Knox is the worst referee in modern wrestling, the worst referee of the last 40 years in any major company. God bless the Elite for getting their friends jobs, because it has brought this company down so much. So, they did good stuff, don't get me wrong. We had the crane kick thing from Karate Kid. This was way too far into the match to do this shit, though, and I think that Speedball literally had his leg maybe not hanging on by a thread. I don't think it was broken, but it was probably heavily bruised. And we eventually get, what looks like we're going to get a Tower of Doom thing, and Omega eventually does, after hitting a bunch of Snapdragons, hitting a whole bunch of stuff, and everybody's doing these near falls, he hits a variation of the One Wing Angel from picking Ricochet up, from the top, hits it, 1, 2, 3, Meatball can't cover him, or can't, break it up because he's hanging in the ropes. So, okay, that's fine. You protect Speedball, protect him from himself and never have him pick up a mic again. Omega retains. Here's Okada to come down and stare. Nice of Okada to show up. And I know that apparently him and his wife welcomed a second child recently, so good for them. And I don't mind Okada getting a shit pot full of money from Tony Khan the Idiot. Okada has been so unremarkable since signing there. I'm sorry. He doesn't really mean much. But we're getting that. We're getting that match at All In. It's a lock. It's got to be a lock at this point. You blow off the whole damn thing. You never revisit that because I don't think that they can pull it out twice. I don't even know if they can pull out much of it once, or at least once more, because the last time they faced off was at Dominion 2018, which by the time we get to All In Texas is going to have been 7 years and a month ago. And we're nearly approaching 7 years. That's one of my favorite matches of the last 20 or so years. But anyway, Swerve comes out dressed as, I assume, Static Shock. And I'm just going to make this very clear here. This was one of the worst main events that AEW has put on pay-per-view. I didn't expect them to have Swerve win. I honestly expected that they were going to do something stupid. I didn't expect they were going to do something this stupid. I figured Hangman would come in. He did. It just, everything about this, it just proves 1 step forward, 5 steps back. All they're going to remember is the finish. There were fuck you Moxley chants. Marina standing around like a goddamn freaking Easter Island statue, except Easter Island statues have beneficial, or benefit this goddamn, world. I'm sorry, as a wrestler, she fucking sucks. Somebody needs to tell her, you need to find something else to do. By the way, he had to buy extra pay-per-view time, Tony did, because this went 4.5 hours. And by the time we got to about, I think, the Ring of Honor Championship match, we were cooking. They were doing some great stuff. Until that, and then they kept going. And they kept going. And I don't mind giving the fans their money's worth, but even by this point, the crowd was pretty goddamn dead. I mean, they were alive for the 3-way. They weren't really alive much after after Briscoe and Fletcher until the 3-way. They took a break. And Marina serves no purpose. She can't do anything. Moxley is the worst main event talent they have outside of Jericho. Everything he does looks like shit. Swerve bleeds. Swerve gets his ass kicked. And I know the idea is, okay, you want Swerve to earn it. You want him to do this stuff. But they're not going to pay it off. They're never going to pay it off properly. Even if Darby doesn't die on Mount Everest and they have him win the world title, it's not going to mean anything. There is no end game that will serve a purpose and help this company get out of its own way. They may be able to sell a bunch of tickets to Texas. They might get a groundswell of support for Double or Nothing. If they come back for WrestleDream, maybe I'll go. I don't know. But for every positive that they have, and there are positives to this company, there is no way to justify this Moxley stuff. It is the worst thing they have done that they have continued to do. They don't want to listen to the fans. And Tony Khan's burned a lot of goodwill with the goddamn fans. I gave him a lot more goddamn slack as one of the more jaded goddamn fans out there that, again, has paid for every single pay-per-view. I don't illegally stream this stuff. I have no reason to do that. I want to pay my hard-earned money. And I keep feeling like I'm getting slapped because of it. Swerve might as well hang it up as a main eventer at this point. They've killed him for at least the next 6 months. He ain't going to get in world title contention again, especially after what they did. The fans even stopped caring. The fans would come alive when Swerve was doing stuff, but it's like they sensed shenanigans were coming, and they did. A house call. Marina took a cutter and couldn't even take it right because she's incapable of doing any of this. Her kid probably could take something better. Or her kids. I don't know how many she has. One for each brain cell, I assume, that she still has left. And she has the case and hits Nana with the case. One of the weakest. I thought the belt shot was goddamn weak. But no, you stupid broad. You can't do anything right. And then we get, the cutter to Marina. She couldn't even take that right. David Flair took a better goddamn diamond cutter, and David Flair couldn't do shit. A DDT for 2. Here's a ladder. Oh, look, the referee gets taken out after we get the Swerve stomp to the announcer's table where Swerve hurt his knee. This will not end. I mean, The referee, by the way, ladder, all this stuff, the referee's taken out. I don't even know why they bother having referees for this stuff. And then, here's Hangman. Is he going to hit Swerve? Is he going to hit Moxley? And then the Death Riders show up in Utah. I have such seething rage for the mere existence of this stupid little string being dweeb. He is not fucking worthy of calling himself a professional wrestler. I'm a fan that will never be anything more than a fan. And I saw plenty of people in the Tacoma Dome that could have kicked the shit out of him. That fucking unbelievable little goddamn stick bug. Fucking hate him. I legit hate him. The hatred I have for that moron, for this undeserving little prick, it's unhealthy. And I try to not let it bother me. But AEW will bring passion up in me and then will beat it out of me. And I defy any fans to defend this. Defend this. Because it's not heat at this point. And WWE, for any of its big businesses it's doing overseas and in the US, has plenty of goddamn problems. The build to WrestleMania has fucking sucked. And then AEW will do shit like it. And the Death Riders show up. And then, a dead eye on Moxley. Like that's going to hurt his brain. Because he doesn't have one. Because he's an idiot. He needs to be saved from himself. Oh, and then the Ops show up. Shibata and his new brain didn't do any good. And the lights out. Oh, look. Well, by the way, we get a chair, we get a stomp, and then the lights go out, and then the Bucks show up, and we get a 3 count. I do not care what the need is for Tony Khan to continue to pay the Young Bucks. I quite frankly hope that Tony Khan just continues to waste his money on people like this. If the Bucks just went back to California, would the Bucks be missed? They keep having to go away because nobody really wants to see them. Even their most diehard fan base has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk, putting every, bit about their beliefs to the side. They're not good people, but they're even worse wrestlers. They have never evolved. They will never be able to draw. They will never be beneficial to this company again. They have not meant anything for at least 4 years in this company. Close to it. And Hangman, it's going to be Hangman and Swerve against the Bucks, and I do not understand why anybody thinks that's going to be beneficial. This Moxley stuff's going to continue. All they're going to remember is the finish. This was a pay-per-view. It wasn't as good as Revolution, because I feel Revolution was better, even with its faults. This is something that kills the momentum of a company. So I hope they continue to run smaller venues for TV, and they draw well for their pay-per-views. I hope they can do it. I will do my best to continue to buy their pay-per-views as long as I'm able and as long as I'm interested. But I'm getting to the point where after this year, I don't know how many of their pay-per-views I'm going to review. Because I'm really thinking about easing back. It's not fucking healthy what AEW does to its fan base. You can anger your fan base to a point if you give them a resolution, but if you continue to defy what the fans want, they are going to eventually tune out or just sit there and just do this. And a lot of fans are going to be doing that at TV. Because Khan won't listen. It's going to bite him in the ass. And I don't really have anything else to say. This was a lousy end to a pay-per-view that had some great moments. Revolution was better, but it had a deflating ending, and then you have this. And Jon Moxley being the worst main event talent that they have. So agree, disagree with what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritlin. I'll see you soon.